During the Neolithic Age, most of the Indian subcontinent was inhabited by Dravidian peoples. A few Tibeto-Burman and Austroasiatic tribes lived in the eastern regions, while Indo-Aryan tribes occupied the northern regions. Most of these pre-Vedic cultures favored the development of matriarchal societies and the worship of female deities. The divine feminine was referred to as Prakriti, which stands for creation and nurture, but it was also known by other names such as Shakti, meaning primordial power and consciousness, or Tara, that is, starlight and heavenly protection. The center of Neolithic Shaktism was to be found in what is today's Madhya Pradesh. Ancient tribes, such as the Baiga, Kasi, and Garo, have preserved the matrilineal social structure to this day. In Neolithic India, women were provided opportunity to attain high intellectual and spiritual standards. Motherhood and femininity were epitomized by the phrase, "A mother is a goddess." The milkmaids of Vrindavan were the foremost devotees of Krishna, the preeminent avatar of Vishnu. The epic Mahabharata and other ancient Hindu scriptures describe several heroines as well as female artists and philosophers. Krishna's death in 3102 BC marked the beginning of the Bronze Age. From the 30th to the 13th centuries, an Indo-Aryan tribe known as the Kuru spread throughout the Indo-Gangetic Plain. Their cultural influence led Indian society to embrace Brahmanism alongside a rigid caste and gender hierarchy. In Bronze Age India, the universe came to be seen as ruled by three gods known as the Trimurti, and their respective consorts, namely the Tridevi. The universal male principle, called Purusha, gained superiority over the female Prakriti. The legendary legislator Manu wrote a code of law according to which every woman should be dependent on her father in her youth, on her husband for most of her adult life, and on her son in old age. Women were generally denied education, property, and inheritance. Born in southern India, the great female philosopher Lopamudra was the consort of the sage Agastya. Her death in about 1200 BC marked the beginning of the Iron Age, during which very few women left their mark on Indian history as important spiritual or cultural leaders. In 594 BC, when he was 29 years old, Nepalese Prince Siddhartha Gautama left the comforts of his home and embraced a lifestyle of austerity and self-discipline. A milkmaid named Sujata fed Siddhartha Gautama a bowl of milk rice pudding and rescued him from self-inflicted starvation and extreme asceticism. The gift provided him enough strength to cultivate the middle way and engage in successful meditation. After the demon Mara had sent his daughters to seduce him, Siddhartha Gautama sat unfazed and touched the earth with his right hand. In so doing, he called upon the earth goddess as a witness to his superiority over the desire realm. Only then did he become the Buddha. Shortly after he started teaching, a wealthy aristocratic woman named Visakha generously supported him and his monastic community throughout her life. The Buddha condemned India's Brahmin-dominated caste system. He emphasized emancipation through individual effort. Several of his family members became his disciples, including his half-sister, his wife, and his maternal aunt, who had raised him after his mother's death. A group of 500 female renunciants, led by the Buddha's maternal aunt, walked barefoot to the Buddha's abode and requested to be ordained. At first, he felt that Indian society would not accept Buddhism if it allowed women to shave their heads like male monks and never get married. However, upon further consideration, he was persuaded to defy prejudice and went on to found the first nunnery. The courtesan Amrapali became enlightened, and many Buddhist nuns quickly attained perfect wisdom. The Buddha often eulogized his mother Mayadevi, and many Hindus reverted to the worship of the divine feminine Prakriti. The Buddha's death marked the beginning of the pre-classical period. The Buddha was integrated into Vaishnavism, where he was considered as the 9th avatar of Vishnu. In Hindu denominations such as Sri Vaishnavism, Sri Vidya, and Kalikula, the goddess Lakshmi and the 10 great wisdoms are regarded as the main source of spiritual power. In the years following the Buddha's death, some elder Buddhist nuns wrote a collection of poems called Therigatha, which includes the verses of a mother who lost her child, a former prostitute who became a nun, and a wealthy heiress who abandoned her life of pleasure. Ashoka the Great, the emperor of India in the 3rd century BCE, became a fervent Buddhist and endeavored to spread Buddhism beyond his empire into Central Asia and Indochina. Ashoka had 5 consorts. He and his first consort Devi supervised the construction of the Sanchi Stupa in Madhya Pradesh. They had a son named Mahindra and a daughter named Sanghamitra, both of whom devoted their life to Buddhism. Sanghamitra went to Sri Lanka in order to start a nun lineage at the request of Sinhalese king Devanampiya Tissa. She also ordained Sinhalese queen Anula and planted a branch of the Bodhi tree in Anuradhapura. However, it was not until several centuries later that other women played important roles in the history of Buddhism. The first was Pragyatara. Born in East India in the 4th century, she was the 27th supreme preceptor of Indian Buddhism. Pragyatara's death marked the beginning of the classical period. Her disciple was Bodhidharma, who traveled to China and founded the Chan lineage in the early 6th century. About 150 years later, Chinese Empress Wu Zetian supported Buddhism in China and claimed to be the incarnation of Vimala Prabha, an enlightened woman mentioned in the Great Cloud Sutra. In 8th century Tibet, Yeshe Tsogyal was the chief consort of Emperor Trisong Detsen. She studied under Padmasambhava, spent many years in isolated meditation retreat, and had 11 main students. Mandarava was Padmasambhava's chief consort. Born in Himachal Pradesh, she educated about 1,000 women in the Himalayan region. In the 15th century, Tibetan Princess Chokidroma, the chief consort of polymath Tantong Gyalpo, contributed to Buddhist arts and literature, promoted women's education, and founded the Samdhin Dorje Pagmo lineage. Finally, born in 1901, Buddhist philanthropist and activist Mei Chi Kiao was a student of the famous Thai forest master Ajahn Mahabua. Though she hailed from a remote rural village in northern Thailand, she was eventually recognized by the Thai government and international organizations as the most influential Buddhist woman in the 20th century.